Hi, my name is Sophie Summers, and as always, welcome to the Crossdressing Lifestyle channel. Now, have you ever wondered why some wig styles cost an awful lot more than others? Or which shape and style of wig would be good for your facial features? Or more importantly, how long will that wig you just purchased last? Well, we've invited along Emily Buckwalter, who's the education manager and a licensed cosmetologist for Jon Renau Wigs, to answer those questions and a lot more. So if you want to find out the answers, stick with us. Hi Emily, and thank you very much for joining us today. It's a great pleasure to have you on here.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's very much a pleasure. Now, as we said in the introduction here, there's quite a few questions to get through. But I think the one we wanted to start off with really was to do with sort of the process of creating a wig and why is it sort of so expensive for some styles over others?
Absolutely. I think the main thing to understand, especially when you're looking for a style, is how it's made, because that explains a lot about the cost. So a style that is made with more delicate base materials are going to give you a more natural looking style, but they're also going to cost more because the more natural something looks, the more delicate it is. So every single piece that you see is designed by hand, which I know sounds a little crazy at first. When I first started working with alternative hair and wigs specifically, I had an image in my mind that wigs just kind of came out of this like conveyor belt, like cookies or something like that. And then quickly learned that that's not the case, that there's individuals at the factories that specialize in different parts of the design. So there's someone who actually cuts out all the ear tabs that you see. There's someone else who really takes all the hair and blends all the colors together by hand and either runs them through a sewing machine to create wefts or ventilates or individually hand ties those knots to the base itself. So it's really a lot of details that go into creating any of these pieces.
Okay. That's good. I mean, the sort of the wigs that I'm kind of fairly familiar with is, first of all, starting off with the open wefted type of designs, which I believe are probably about a fairly high percentage of the marketplace that a lot of people go for. But there isn't the styling options, obviously, in those particular wigs as there are in probably the more, as we take, the more expensive ones. So is there a lot to do with the caps and the materials that's used and the way in which that you're saying that they put together individually?
Yes, absolutely. So a wefted cap, sometimes in the industry, you'll hear it called a machine back. I like using a wefted cap instead because these wefts, and actually let me pull one forward to show you. I'm a big fan of actually showing and visualizing. So if you look at this cap that I have right here, all of these are wefts. Now these wefts are predetermined in length and width, as well as how long the hair is going to be that's attached to it. Then it's all stitched together and then sewn into this construction that you see here. So if you look at these lines running down, these elastic straps, this has a little bit of give to it, but think of that as like the bone structure, if you will, of the cap itself. And then these wefts, they create that finished look that you see with all the hair on it.
Okay, so that would be probably the more industrious way of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Way of doing it.
I would say
that particular design.
It's easier, so there's less manual labor that's involved in it, meaning the price is down. Now, when you look at a wig, however, that's 100% hand tied, like this one, you'll notice that it has a very different cap design. Right. So everything is hand tied. So through this lace front section that's pre-cut, we have a monofilament section right through here. That's going to allow the hair to kind of like move in either direction, like you see that I have my hair styled. I'm actually wearing the exact same style, just a wefted version of it. And then in the back here, there's more give and stretch to it. But again, all of this hair is individually hand tied to it. So definitely more labor intensive. Something like this can take maybe about 10 hours to make, whereas a style like this will take up to 30. So you can imagine that there's definitely going to be more cost involved based on how natural something looks because of how delicate and the time that it takes to create that.
So from a user's perspective, what could you actually point towards to say, well, this is the benefit of having a hand-tied wig over having a machine wefted or an open type of wig?
Yeah.
What would be the visual benefits or to the
Absolutely. So I'll start with a wefted wig, sort of the benefits or the features and benefits, if you will, of a wefted cap like this. The first one is going to be durability. So this cap in particular, this is what we call like a shake and go. It's a little bit lower maintenance. It's still going to give you coverage that you want to and the silhouette that you desire. There's a lot of volume too. So if you like a lot of hair and you want a lot of volume, a wefted cap is going to give that to you. Whereas a hand-tied cap, definitely more delicate. I'm going to say it over and over again. The more natural something looks, the more delicate that it is. That has a lot to do with the care that goes into it as well. But the more delicate look allows you to change up the parting. So if you want to wear the hair back off your face, like you see I have, you need to look for something that's hand-tied. A wefted cap or a fully wefted or machine cap, that silhouette is placed in a certain way and it's not going to move. So it's created for that end result. Now, a hand-tied cap is going to give you more flexibility in changing up the style. Do you want to pull the hair back off your face? Do you want to wear it up? Or do you want to just kind of wear it as is? With a wefted, you don't have that option. It is what it is. And that's why there's so many different styles and choices out there when it comes to color and cut for synthetics that are wefted, because you can't change it. Now, a hand-tied cap, you can really change it up. You could even take it to someone, or if you feel comfortable making those customizations yourself, if you want to add a little bit of fringe into it, you can redirect the knots and cut that in. Versus a wefted cap, you really can't do that. That's really set in place. And typically, most wefted caps, if it's fully wefted and don't have a lace front, they aren't going to give you the ability to pull the hair off. They're going to come with a fringe. So that can be a pro and a con, depending on whether or not that's something you're looking for in the style.
I've always sort of I've looked at the sort of benefits of them all. Sometimes the cheaper wigs, because of the open weftedness, it allows me to get the heat out of my head. Yes. A lot more, because obviously I'm wearing a little bit more than just the wig. I'm wearing some other garments as well. It sort of restricts my heat. It makes me very, very warm. So that's quite a nice sort of benefit with one of the open sort of wefted wigs. What I've always found is that, as you've alluded to already, it's really the I want to use a better expression than the believability.
Yes.
Particularly under close inspection, I noticed that Jon Renau themselves have got their unique smart lace fronts, which
we
is,
do.
As you say, it is pre-cut.
Yes.
I'm of a generation that can go back far enough when they were all sort of down here and you used to have to chop them all in and glue them all in, and it was a mess. Well, at least when I did it, it was anyway. So it's really got to do with, as you say, fitness for purpose, what you really want to achieve at the end of the day with the design.
I think also, how much time do you want to spend? I think that's a big one. So, what is your priority, if you will, when it comes to your style? Do you want to spend the most time on the hair, or do you want to spend more time on your makeup and your outfit? So kind of knowing that as well. When it comes to, like you were saying, more of those extended lace fronts, they're very, very delicate and beautiful. But you have to be able to cut them. You have to be able to use that adhesive. So if you're looking for something that you can wear on occasion and just put it on, feel comfortable and confident in it, then definitely going with something that's pre-cut and a little bit more durable, like the smart lace fronts, which is a welded lace. That's going to give you that option versus really having to go through and customize something that's maybe a French, that extended lace, or even a Swiss.
I think one of the hardest things for people to do is to purchase wigs on a visual, on a sort of like on a website or something else, particularly when it comes to things like measurements.
Yes.
And I get confused between nape and crown and where you measure and where you don't measure. And in the end, it kind of like, it's a barrier to purchase sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
What sort of shapes are probably, I suppose your facial shape has a lot to do with which styles to go for. So is there any recommendations on those sort of aspects? Let's start off with the very basics of where you measure from.
How do you measure? I think before we even go to how do you measure the piece you're going to purchase, let's talk about how you measure your own head first to make sure that whatever you're going to purchase is going to fit correctly. And then you can go into more of like, where will these different lengths that are described in the description, where are they going to land on you? So I have my little friend here. She's my favorite client because she never complains. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you exactly how to measure. Now, these measurements are not just Jon Renau, they're industry standards. So that's important to know when you're measuring your head. It's really rule number one. It's going to allow for comfort, and it's also going to really help you with longevity and care, because there's nothing worse than wearing a wig that's too small or too big because you're fussing with it the entire time, which is going to break down the integrity of the cap. So I have my handy dandy measuring tape. I'm going to go ahead and show you now my model here. She does not have a hairline, but an easy way to establish that is just the front facial plane along with the top. This is important too when you're actually placing your pieces. If you're wearing adhesive, you want to make sure the wig is not too far back or too far forward, because that's kind of a dead giveaway that you're wearing a piece. If your eyebrows move up and down and your hairline moves with it, it's typically something off that you might notice. And so it's a good little rule of thumb to make sure you're putting your hairline where it would naturally fit for your facial structure. So here's my front hairline. Okay. It's going to be right about here. Is that coming through okay?
2 or 3 fingers.
Yeah, you can do the 4-finger rule, but if you look, I have a very tall forehead.
Right.
And so it's not quite right. I actually put mine a little bit farther back because if I move my head and I did the 4-finger rule, my hairline would move with it. Okay. And I naturally have a little bit of a recession. And so when I look at myself in the mirror, I still want to see that recession because that's the picture frame that I'm used to seeing. Oh, I kind of did a little Vogue thing right there, but it's that picture frame that you're used to seeing. So when you're taking those measurements, always use a fabric measuring tape. That's definitely a pro. And you're going to take it all the way around to where that front hairline would be, and then the nape. That's the other part that I want to point out is where that nape stands. So it's not down here where maybe your hairline would be. It's actually going to be in the crevice of, if you look up at the ceiling, you'll kind of feel a little crevice and then slowly lift your head up. Right there where your hand lands, that's where your wig wants to sit all day. That was one thing I learned through theater, where many stylists were trying to put the wig down too low and it kept rising up. And so the actors felt like their piece was too small, when in reality, once I showed them where to put it and had that natural movement, suddenly it was like, oh, this fits me. This is where it's supposed to live. So that's just another tidbit too, also to know exactly where it's supposed to sit on you when you're measuring and applying the piece.
Yeah.
So all the way around the circumference is the first measurement you want to take. Then you want to do your front to back measurement. Now this starts at the front hairline and goes back 7 inches. So if you look right here, you'll see that my measuring tape, I don't know if it's focusing or not, but you'll see it's at about 7 inches. Yep. It's not. Okay. It's about 7 inches.
It, but I'll take your word for it.
7 inches back. Okay. So you want to go 7 inches back and establish the top of head point. So when you're doing your ear to ear, it's not over the head like a headband. Instead, you're actually measuring the depth of the wig. So that's 7 inches from ear to ear on either side. So you can see how much farther back that is. Yeah. Than if it were to be up and over the head like a headband. And then front to back. So front hairline again, all the way back to that nape where you have that crevice I talked about again. So once you have those measurements, you can look at a measuring chart and really determine which size is going to be right for you based on your largest measurement. So if you're measuring about 21 inches, for your circumference, and then your front to back is maybe like 14, then you're going to want to look at a larger size because that 14 is going to land you in a different size than an average cap. So that's important to know. So it's not necessarily the largest measurement in centimeters or millimeters or inches, because that's always going to be your circumference. But instead, where do you fit within kind of those adjustments? It's much like when you're picking out clothing and you're taking those measurements, you want to make sure that things can always be taken in, but you don't want to be trying to expand them.
Yeah, I think all of the standard measurements I get sort of quoted to me for cap sizes, they're obviously average and then large. It's always the circumference. 20,
And they
30
can
inches,
be.
and then plus that's what people seem to go for, that circumference measurement. And that, as we just found out now, is a little bit misleading, to say the least.
Yeah, there's definitely other options to it, because if you look at a hand-tied cap, they actually will stretch up to a half a size. So if you're purchasing a large cap that's 100% hand-tied, it will stretch to a little bit extra large, if you will, and kind of also condense where it needs to, maybe in that front to back or ear to ear. So that's another really big benefit of a hand-tied cap. Yes, you're going to pay more for the labor that was involved in it, but it's going to be more comfortable, and it's going to kind of like fit you like a perfect pair of leggings instead of a wefted wig, which is like your really good skinny jeans. If that if that can reference or not.
I think so. That'll work.
I don't know. I've been wearing a lot of leggings since the whole working at home situation with COVID. So but that's how you measure your own measurement. That's how you take your own measurements, I should say. And then once you know what size wig you should be in. So this is Ignite. I'm going to move myself over so that she kind of takes center stage, if you will. I really like this style. This is actually a great style for a lot of different face shapes, because of the way she kind of has the beautiful layering, and also this tapered nape right back here. That's something to look for. If you're going to have all of your hair back, you want to make sure that there's that tapered nape so that it gives the illusion of a hairline. I know when I wrap all my hair up, I have it up high. And so that creates sort of that very beautiful and comfortable fit, and gives that very natural look along the nape. So I have Ignite here. Now, if you are looking at measurements on a website, you'll see that there are your bang measurements, your crown measurements, your side measurements, and your nape measurements. So I want to show you exactly where those measurements fall, and where you should take them from on yourself, so that you can see where exactly is that fringe going to hit you, where is that nape going to land on you, as well as the sides.
I think that's important, because a lot of I mean, you're quite right about the style you've got there. Anything that comes in around the jawline, particularly on a genetic guy, it sort of softens that hard masculine jawline. But it's important that it actually comes underneath the jaw, if you know what I mean, and not sort of like really on the jaw. So these are sort of critical measurements, because that's what I would consider to be a short sort of a bob. But it's not a bob.
Absolutely. And she has a lace front to her, but she is fully wefted all the way throughout. So that's why you see all these beautiful kind of layers coming through her. And she can also get a lot of volume. So if you like that bigger hair look, definitely a wefted cap is going to give you that option. But she also, I want to note this beautiful silhouette that she has. That's something else to look for. So if you have biological hair that you are wrapping up or not, you always want to kind of hide it. So I'm currently wearing a style that has a lot of wave to it. That's because it's hiding my biological hair that I'm wrapping. So if you are kind of like pulling your hair back at all, you want to make sure that you're getting a style that is not going to emphasize anything that we're trying to hide underneath, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes it look a little bit bumpy, a little bit sort of sausage, doesn't it? Yeah.
You kind of look at it like something, I don't know what's not right, but something's not right.
Yeah.
So let's take a look. So the nape, I kind of have to turn her inside out to show you. So the nape measurement is actually taken from the nape. So from where that hairline is going to start, and that's again where that measurement we took earlier was, from that point down to the bottom. You'll notice that a lot of styles have a little bit of a tapered look to them. That's to create a more natural blending within the layers, because all these styles, these wefts, as I mentioned, they're pre-cut. So the length is predetermined before it's attached to the style. So that's why the ends are always going to be a little bit more tapered to give sort of a diffused look. So you don't have any harsh lines throughout the cap. So again, you're going to take that nape measurement right from down there, pull that hair straight, and take it. She's like about 1.5 inches, almost 2 inches from the nape. Now your ear measurements are taken from the ear tab. So that would be your side measurement. So your side measurement, here's my ear tab right here. You're going to pull the hair out and measure it down as well. Again, keeping in mind where that tapered end is, the longest length of that tapered end is what we consider the finished length of that piece.
Okay.
And then the same thing goes from the front or the bang. So here's my front. I need to kind of have her face me a little bit so I can get this properly. But if I pull that hair forward, I take my measuring tape, just like I've done before, and I pull it all the way down. That's going to be your front or your bang measurement.
Yep.
And then your crown measurement comes from the very tip top. And so you'll pull the hair straight up and measure from there as well. So you can do that on yourself. You can look at where those measurements are on the wig online, and then take a measuring tape and look at it and say, okay, so if it says that the nape is going to be, 2 inches, go ahead and measure where those 2 inches might be. Okay, so I know
back again, as you said earlier, to get the right crease. Yeah.
To lean back. So, okay, so that's going to be where those two. So I know it's going to land about here on me. Okay, that's a good length for me. It's right above my collar. I'm comfortable with that. I just realized that my necklace is probably getting all twisted. And then my side from here is going to be, let's see, I'm all twisted again. My side is going to land right about here. Okay, that's a good length for my jawline, right? I want to emphasize this area. It's a feature that I like. I like my cheekbones, so I want to pull that forward so that people can see it. And then same with fringe. I have a little bit longer of a forehead, or a taller forehead, if you will. So I want to make sure that I have something that is going to have a fringe that is going to kind of hide that a little bit and soften my look. So once I know that, and then I put her on, or I've ordered her and then put her on, I should say, then I have a much better idea of where all this is going to hit me, as you can see. Mm-hmm. And the important thing, again, remember that nape we talked about? That's that soft look that we were talking about.
It's grand.
So
at the moment, with Jon Renau, what seems to be the most popular sort of styles?
Zara has always been a number one. She's that longer, I don't know that I have her in front of me right now, but she's a longer synthetic. Ignite is another one. This is what I just put on, is Ignite. And she's actually now available in a petite and a large cap. So before, she was only available in an average cap, but we launched new styles in our favorites collection this year. And so with that, now we have a larger size for Ignite. And then another one that we're excited about is Sarah. Now, Sarah is this one that I have right here. Let me just kind of gently go off screen. So this is Sarah. Beautiful long curls, sort of has that beach wave look to her. And as you can see, being available in a petite as well as average and large, really important when it comes to picking out styles, because you want to find something that you love and then make sure that it comes in the right size for you.
Yeah, I think for 99% of the people that I deal with, and I know, you're starting off with an average, and then there's probably about another 5 or 10% have the larger hair sort of caps, and the actual choice around the whole global marketplace for large caps is very diminished. Not many manufacturers, obviously make all of their styles in all of the size caps, because it wouldn't be commercially acceptable, I suppose.
It's interesting. We get a lot of requests for large caps. So if there is particular styles that, maybe you're hearing or some of your followers are asking for, let us know the specific styles, and then that helps us come out with them. That's exactly how the favorites collection was created. Were styles that were already very popular, but we had so many requests for either different cap designs. So maybe it came in a wefted and we wanted it to come in a hand-tied cap, or different sizes. So maybe it was only available in average, but we had so many requests for either petite or a large cap. So I am excited to say that Jon Renau does have a very wide variety when it comes to large cap sizes in human hair. Now we also have Blake, and then in HD, or our heat resistant fiber, and then traditional synthetic.
I think the heat resistant one, if I can just touch on that for a minute, I find it very, very interesting, because previously everybody used to go for human hair because you could style it more. Now with the HD or the heat defiant ones and the fibers, you can induce quite a lot of heat into what I would call now sort of standard wigs and style. So
oh yeah,
that's very, that's very attractive if you are somebody that's pretty good with a curling tong. Unlike me, I just burn everything.
Well, and I love it too. And it's important to know when you are looking at something that's heat resistant, and sometimes it'll say like heat friendly. If I can leave you with anything, it requires heat, because it is a more delicate fiber. So it is a little bit more natural looking. It doesn't have as much shine to it as your traditional synthetic will. If you don't apply heat to it, it tends to get very frizzy. So for those longer styles, you'll hear maybe some concerns about a lot of like tension frizz. So wide tooth comb will eliminate that kind of tension frizz. And then also making sure that you're using products to protect it. But once a week, you should be washing your pieces every 6 to 8 wears. So if you're wearing your piece for, I don't know, let's say once a week, then you can probably go about once a month before you're washing your piece, depending on how long you're wearing your style and what exactly you're doing in it. So, are you super active, or are you just more lounging around? That will make a difference as far as how often you need to wash it. But a good average is 6 to 8 wears. When it comes to traditional synthetic, you just comb it out, add a little bit of conditioning spray, let it dry on a wig stand so it has a lot of ventilation to allow the cap to dry. When it comes to HD, you also want to make sure that you're using a flat iron or a curling iron to really smooth out those ends, because that's what's going to keep the integrity of the fiber a lot longer.
Okay. This is it. You've invested quite a bit of time and money and effort in finding the right wig for you.
Yes.
There's all the aftercare that's important. And I think it's worth touching on now, because, if you're investing $200, $300, maybe $400 or more on a style, you want it to last. And I suppose the obvious question is, well, how long is it going to last?
Right. And that's a great question. So when it comes to your traditional synthetic fiber, if you're wearing the piece, let's say every single day, so every 6 to 8 wears, and with proper care and maintenance, you're washing it, that piece will last you about 6 to 9 months. Now, that is, again, assuming that you're wearing this piece every single day and you're not doing anything too crazy in it. It's not your workout piece. It's not something that you're going to go out dancing with your friends in, but instead it's just a regular wear. When it comes to human hair, that is going to last you longer. So yes, it's a much higher investment because it is organic material that has to be sourced, but it will last about 9 months to a year. What you'll notice that will break down on human hair is not the wig itself or like the hair itself, it's the cap. So with all these caps, there's so much elasticity to them. That's what makes it so natural and so comfortable and really hugs your head and fits very well. But because of that elasticity, it will break down over time just by putting it on, just normal taking it on and taking it off. And then also any oils or makeups that you're wearing, if you're not properly cleansing your pieces after wear, those oils just sit on the base designs. They'll sit on your laces, they'll sit on the cap design, and they'll start to break it down over time. So it'll definitely shorten the life expectancy of your piece.
Well, thank you, Emily. That was very, very informative. And it's nice to see so many of the designs in the background as well.
Oh, yes. They're a little naked right now, but I'll put their hair back on them.
So.